All right.
Here we go.
All right. Let's do it.
Do you know what I just discovered in our 2-second break before you came to hit record?
What?
This is a special website for you. I was looking up a word just to double check spellings and stuff, because I wanted to tell you like a cool Scottish word that described exactly how I felt today in the heat. And there's a website called scottranslate.com that's a little bit like Google Translate, where you can type in words and it tells you the Scottish equivalent.
No way.
How cool is that?
That is cool. And you know what I just remembered, which I totally forgot, even though we've been chatting for the last half an hour? Max did a recording for you.
Did he?
He did. It's so super cute. Let me know.
Hear it?
Yeah, absolutely. I was gonna play it. On my computer, but I actually have it on my phone.
Oh, I can't wait to hear. Will I give him marks out of 10 on his Scottishness?
Yes. I had like a serious conversation about it. I was like, and because he was like super shy, and I'm like, you can just do a video, but capture your voice, and I won't show it to anybody. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, hold on. Make sure the sound is up. Oh my god, so cute. Hold on.
I couldn't hear that at all.
I sent it to my computer. Oh my god. He's so cute. I'm so sorry. Okay, so
do it again.
All right, so he's 12. Okay. Hold on. Let me see if you can hear it.
My cat coughed up a hairball on my bed, and it's not very comfortable to sleep on. I prefer a sheet or a frame from that, to be honest.
Oh my goodness! He's so good. He's better than some Hollywood actors I've heard. Isn't he so cute? That is so cute. How did he come out with that phrase? Because that's not what I told him to say, but that is a much better one.
Did you hear that okay?
The cat coughed up a hairball.
Yeah. You want to hear it again?
Yeah, I want to hear it.
That's actually what happened. That's what he actually thought happened. So, okay, Hori, hold on. Oh, Max?
My cat coughed up a hairball on my bed, and it's not very comfortable to sleep on. I prefer a sheet or a frame from that, to be honest.
Max, you get 10 out of 10 from me. Your R's were really good. I know.
So cute. All right.
Like a proud mother moment. My son sounds super Scottish.
Well, you just see, and it cost me $15. Luckily, he owed us some money.
You had to pay him?
Yes, of course I did. He wasn't going to do that for free. I was like, come on, do it.
He's like, these days, I'm telling you.
Yeah, he's like, fuck you. I'm not doing that. So I
would have done that for a nice lolly in my day.
I know, right? I thought he was so cute, but then I'm like, maybe that's just me being a dorky mom. But I was like, I think his accent is so cute. So
I think he's done it pretty well. You know, there are some I'm not going to name any names, but there are some. There are some actors whose Scottish is pretty shit compared to that. Yeah. So yeah, he's done really well.
Oh, I think it's cute. I cute. I know. I always yell at him. I'm like, why are you so good at accents? He does a really good Russian one, and I'm like, why? Are you not like you're sitting around watching Russian videos? He's
obviously just got the ear for it.
The ear for it.
Yeah, he's got the ear for it.
I'm glad you thought it was so successful. I'm like, I feel like you do such a good job. So now I'm gonna have that forever on this podcast.
Oh, you've got to keep it.
So happy.
You need to play that at his graduation or his wedding or something.
So cute.
He probably would be super embarrassed, but that's what.
Yep. Well, they went through this period. All my boys, when we went to Scotland. I don't know if it was like in a video game or like a movie. I don't know what it was, but they would be like, Scotland forever in like their Scottish accent. And they would boom this from like different random places, like out the car window and like just randomly.
Is that not like from Braveheart or something?
I don't know. They've never even seen Braveheart, so I don't know, but it was awesome. And then they stopped doing it. I was super sad. I'm like, go back to
the one that you need to get them to say, which is typically Scottish, is there's been a murder. Did you spit your drink out?
I did. That's so short and sweet. There's been a murder.
There's been a murder.
All right, I'll have him do that too. But I was very satisfied that he did like a whole. I told him, I'm like, it can't just be one sentence. You have to like say something, and it has to have a lot of R's in it because that's
maybe
like
he's going to be an actor or a voiceover actor when he's older.
It. He's cute as a freaking button, so he definitely could.
So the word that I wanted to tell you today was puggles.
Puggles. What?
Puggles.
Puggles. Oh, I don't. That could be like a cereal. It could be a flower. I have no idea what that is.
What, like a flower in your garden?
I know. What is that?
What kind of flowers do you think we have here?
I don't know. What is a puggles? It sounds like a Harry Potter. Like
your Scottish flowers are different from ours.
They could be. What's a puggles? What the heck is that?
It's that particularly like tired feeling you get when you're too hot and sweaty.
Oh, it's like every day in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's a perfect one for you. Well, it's been like 23 degrees here today, which has made me fear puggles.
Oh my God. Puggles. You really say that? Is that like a common word? Or you just really?
And it's funny because I looked it up to get the spelling, and that's how I found this Scots Translate website. And it just says exhausted, but it's not exhausted. It's like exhausted because it's hot.
It's like hot and bothered is what that
hot
is.
And bothered.
Yeah.
I'm fear puggles.
And what's the website again?
ScottTranslate.com. How cool is that?
Yeah.
And you can do Scots to English and English to Scottish.
Oh, yeah, you can. Oh,
so there you go. Anytime. Oh my goodness. And if you click on the letter, so I just clicked on the letter C, there's a whole list of words.
Oh, this is amazing. Number 1 English to Scottish translator. Okay, so I can enter a phrase in English.
And it'll tell you it in Scots.
All right, so I'm going to put, I'm so hot and bothered.
See if it gives you puggles.
Will it give me, does it do it, is it like an auditory response? Or does
I have no idea. I just found it.
Oh, it tells me. I'm so hot and bothered. Share translation. I wanted to say it out loud.
So it doesn't actually have different words for that one?
It does. No, it does. It puts them into like written Scottish. Like you can see on, if you're watching on YouTube. So hot and bothered. You know, like as
I think you need I'm saying hot and bothered. I'm saying hot and bothered.
I need Max to come and read it.
I would say I'm puggled. I'm fair puggled.
I'm fair puggled. Oh my God, I love it. I love it. How do the Scottish say hello?
That's cool. I'm definitely going to be looking at this website again. I might find some other words and quiz you next week.
Failing my Scottish lessons terribly. Oh my God.
Do you want to know what we're talking about?
I'm dying to, because you just sent me the most esoteric pictures of little mini people in coffins. I'm like, what the
I know. I thought I would send you photos because I could describe it, but actually just looking at the pictures describes it even better. So we'll probably put some of these up on our Instagram around the time that the episode is released. But also, if you're listening, well, first of all, you don't hear me say this unless you're listening. So that was a really stupid thing to say. If you're listening to us and you want to know what it is that I'm talking about, then a Google would really help. If you don't look at our Insta, but you can go and look at our Insta, and that's probably even better.
Or you can just say it out loud. What is it?
This week, I'm going to talk about the Arthur Seat coffins.
Oh.
But guess what, Karen?
What?
They're also known as the fairy coffins.
Really?
Yes.
Okay, I know what Arthur Seat is, but I've never heard of the Arthur Seat coffins.
I know, well,
never
I
heard of fairy coffins
until
either.
I think it was Ginger, our faithful Ginger, our faithful follower, Ginger. Faithful fan. I think she mentioned it, actually, no, I think it was Nikki. I think it was our other faithful fan, Nikki. I think she mentioned it. She said something, and I hadn't actually heard about these at all.
Really?
Until I read it in an email that she sent us. And this is just the coolest, weirdest, I nearly said murder mystery, but it's not a murder mystery. It's just a mystery.
I have absolutely no idea what this is, so I cannot wait to hear about it.
So for those of you, I'm going to give you some background on Arthur's Seat, first of all, because you know us as well as I know us, that any subject that we do, we want to find like the weird fairy folklore in it.
For sure. Yes.
And I didn't go into this topic thinking it was going to be a fairy folklore kind of topic. I thought it was going to be
like just
a murder mystery
stuff. Yeah.
Like an archaeological.
But there's a fairy like bent to it.
Well, there's a fairy bent to it. Of course.
Yes. Yes. It's like, yes. So good.
So I'm going to talk about that a little bit before I go into the coffins themselves.
Great.
So before we go into what happened and the being found and describing them, let's talk about Arthur's Seat itself. Because so Arthur's Seat is, for those of you who don't know or aren't Scottish, if you're Scottish, you know what Arthur's Seat is, but if you're not Scottish, you might not know. It is a hill that is basically in the center of Edinburgh. It's only a mile from the center of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
It's a huge, big hill that it's quite a tourist thing to climb it.
That was my first experience with Scotland way back when I was 20 years old. That was when I climbed Arthur's Seat. Yes.
I am ashamed to say that I have never climbed Arthur's Seat because most of the times that I've been to Edinburgh were either spent getting drunk in pubs or going around vintage clothing shops.
All right. Well, that's kind of fun too. That's actually all right.
Yeah.
That's
so
a good
I haven't
excuse.
Actually climbed Arthur's Seat. So I'm going to have to go down sometime.
That was my first day ever back in 1996, I believe, was my first visit. And that's what I did. And I will never forget traipsing up there with all my best friends and saying like, we're climbing Arthur's Seat. And I remember distinctly wondering kind of where the name came from and what that was all about. And it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
It's so cool because there's all these legends and myths and things surrounding Arthur's Seat itself, which I think gives the whole coffin thing even more mystery context. Or some, it's not like they were just found on a street corner. They were found in a little hole dug into Arthur's Seat, like a mini cave.
We'll start at the beginning because I don't even know what the hell you're talking about, but I cannot wait. I know nothing.
Well, that's even better because then I feel like I'm being super knowledgeable.
Well, you are.
Dr. Lucy over here with her
folklore PhD.
Folklore PhD. That's not us. We're piss artists, not. Anyway, so Arthur's Seat itself, did you know that there was a whole heap of folklore surrounding Arthur's Seat? I was going to speak about this at the end, but I'm going to put it at the beginning.
Yeah, no.
Because
I did
Arthur's
not know.
Seat is actually an extinct volcano.
Oh, that makes sense for its shape and size. That would make
sense. But it was extinct, like it was thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago. Like it's well extinct. If you live in Edinburgh, you do not have to worry that you're going to be the next Pompeii.
You're not like Icelanders who are literally living like a daily crapshoot.
Yeah, you're not going to be covered in ash and discovered 5,000 years later, right? In
museums,
in the middle of what was Primark or whatever.
Yes.
Primark in the States?
No, but I know
super cheap, crappy shop.
We have plenty of those. Don't worry, they just go by a different name. But anyways, so extinct volcano.
It was an extinct volcano.
Okay,
but actually, the earliest of the legends surrounding it was that it was supposed to be a sleeping dragon.
Oh, cool.
So the story went that there was this huge dragon that was lived in the surrounding area of Edinburgh, and the whole of Edinburgh was like plagued by this huge, angry, terrifying dragon that would like fly around in the sky and like fireball down and terrified the locals. But the dragon that lived there was super greedy. It would like eat so much that it became really fat and slow.
You sure
I love a Scottish legend. This dragon ate too many deep fried Mars bars and went to the chip shop every single night for its tea and didn't have the occasional salad in between. And so it became so fat and slow that it had to like sit down and have a rest.
This is when so good.
When it sat down and had a rest, it fell asleep and it never woke up and it became Arthur's seat hill.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, I love it.
I love that. It's like, don't wake the sleeping dragon.
Yeah.
So I think the shape of Arthur's seat actually does kind of look a bit like a sleeping dragon.
Yeah, I see it. A little mound. Yeah.
So there's a legend that Arthur's seat, the hill, was originally a sleeping dragon, but also there's a legend that there is a connection to King Arthur and that it was the original site of Camelot.
Really?
And that's why it's called Arthur's seat.
Like a million times cooler. And I can't wait to
a million times cooler than a lazy dragon.
A lazy dragon, a coma dragon, an unhealthy dragon.
We're gonna have to paint Arthur's seat dragon. Come on.
Oh my, yes. Yeah, we really do, actually. I just love all of it. I love all angles here.
So they think that it's possibly was where Camelot was, but there's also a Gaelic word, and I'm gonna totally butcher this completely, that is called Ardnassaid, I think, Ardnassaid, which actually sounds really similar to Arthur's seat. And that means the height of the arrows. And they think that rather than it being Camelot, it could have also just been that this word in Gaelic kind of morphed into Arthur's seat, which is also interesting. But I kind of like the Camelot version.
I do too.
But did you also know that the Edinburgh Castle also sits on an extinct volcano?
A separate one from Arthur's seat? Because they're right next to each other. Well, that makes sense because they're not the one and the same, but they're in the same vicinity as each other.
If you've not been to Edinburgh,
sense.
Edinburgh Castle sits on like a big kind of jutting out hill as well. Yes. And it's not actually that far from Arthur's seat. No. I think the super cool thing is that the extinct volcano that Edinburgh Castle sits on is called Castle Rock, which to me is totally
very
like
Game of Thrones.
Hello, George R.R. Martin. I wonder where you got the name Castle Rock from.
100%.
Very Game of Thrones.
Yes, it's very Game of Thrones.
It's really interesting to see where both George R.R. Martin and J.K. Rowling got influences from the area in either Scottish folklore, Scottish history, all of those things for their books, and they've kind of incorporated them into their books, because there's actually a gravestone in Edinburgh that's the name of
Oh yeah. There's
Voldemort.
There's a few gravestones, not just that one. There's a few between Scotland and Iceland, because I've been to both and have gone to places where things were filmed for both of those series. Their inspiration, it comes direct from history and direct from the natural landscape, which are both stunning in both places.
It's fascinating.
It is fascinating.
So actually Arthur's seat was also there was also a hill fort on top of it, an Iron Age one. So about 600 AD, there was like this hill fort above Arthur's seat. And there's also a legend that in the 12th century, King David, was King David the one that was around with Thomas the Rhymer? I think he might have been. I've heard the name King David a few times cropping up in our folklore tales. I don't know whether it's a 12th century thing, because a lot of the tales come from that period, but I've
time
definitely
period.
heard the name King David
Okay.
before. But he came across a stag while he was out hunting, and he was at the foot of Arthur's Seat, and he thought that he was going to be killed by the stag. The stag's antlers were like ready to gore him.
Mm-hmm.
And he like fell off his horse, and he was all like at the mercy of this huge big stag. But then he had this vision that a cross appeared in between the stag's antlers, like a religious cross.
Yeah.
And then the stag just walked away and left him unharmed. So King David thought that this was like divine intervention, that God had saved him, and he founded Holyrood Abbey on that site.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I don't know where exactly Holyrood Abbey is in relation to Arthur's Seat. Is it at the base of it?
It is. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Holyrood Castle or Palace, I guess, I don't forget what they call it, is right at the base of Arthur's Seat.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
So,
and it's only like a mile on the other end from Edinburgh Castle. So it's all very walkable and right there.
Close.
Yes.
Yeah. Things are kind of close together in Scotland because we're a small country. So there's not room to spread yourself out. So you don't get addresses like you get in America, where it's like number 3467 Boulevard Avenue. It's like number 5.
Yeah, that is true. Yes.
We don't have huge big long roads and stuff.
No.
So there's also a lot of tradition of like magic and witchcraft and fairy lore from I keep wanting to call it Sir Arthur's Seat, but it's not, from Arthur's Seat. And apparently the slopes of Arthur's Seat that faced Holyrood, young girls in Edinburgh would, on May Day, they would like bathe their faces in the dew to make themselves more beautiful. And there's a little poem, so maybe I need to go there next. There's a little poem that says, on May Day in the fairy ring, we've seen them round St. Anthony's Spring. Frae grass the collar dewdrops ring, to weet their een is eye, your een is your eye, and water clear as crystal spring, to send them clean.
I don't know what the hell you just said, but it sounded amazing.
Basically, wash your face in May in the May Day dewdrops to make yourself more beautiful. That's basically the gist of it.
Oh, I didn't do that. I believe it. I'm all in. Oh, it sounded just ling and ling and ling and ling.
I know. So Arthur's Seat itself seems like such a little bit magical place.
Yeah, it does.
Which means to me that this story is even more weird.
Oh,
because
I
it
love
happens
weird.
here.
So good.
So I sent you across photos. You can look at them while I'm telling you what happened.
Which I did already, and I'm already have a million questions.
So the background for this is that in 1836, these boys were up trying to catch some rabbits on Arthur's Seat.
Yeah.
And they found these slates that were in kind of higgledy-piggledy in like a shape.
What did you just say?
Higgledy-piggledy.
What the hell? What is that?
Do you not have that word?
Higgledy-piggledy? I'm like, wait a second. Let's rewind for a second.
Higgledy-piggledy.
Higgledy-piggledy? What does that mean? Like roundabout everywhere? What does that mean?
It just means like in a higgledy-piggledy mess.
There's one every episode we find a new word. It's my favorite part. We never know what it's gonna be. Higgledy-piggledy. We need a Scottish to English dictionary, not an English to Scottish one.
I love how you always say it in this like public schoolboy English accent. Higgledy-piggledy.
What? Higgledy. I can't even say it. Higgledy-piggledy. What the hell does that mean?
It just means like in a rummel. Like
in a rummel? I don't know what that means. What are you saying? Speak English.
Speak English yourself. a messy. Like I would say my bedroom floor is a bit higgledy-piggledy.
Hot mess. That's what I say.
Yeah, hot mess.
Hot mess. Okay.
A
All
hot
right,
mess.
I got you. I see you. I understand you now.
Okay.
Thank you for translating. Higgledy-piggledy. What?
I wonder where that word came from, actually.
Love it. Yeah, me. I would love to know also. So good. Okay, sorry. Rewind.
So these boys, they were like out trying to catch rabbits, and they found the higgledy-piggledy mess of sleep.
Hot mess.
And they uncovered these 17 miniature coffins.
17.
There were 17 originally.
Whoa.
There's only 8 left remaining.
How,
do you know why there's only 8 left remaining?
I don't know why they were there to begin with. So no.
Well, there's
people
quite
probably
there's
did they like pillage the
there's
site?
quite a few theories about why they were there, which is what the main gist of what we're going to be talking about is. Right. But yeah, they were young boys, so they I have a quote. Do you want? I'm going to read out this quote. So this quote is from the London Times.
Okay.
And it's dated July 20th, 1836. And excuse me, because I lost my glasses and I've got other ones which aren't quite as good. So
I'm only laughing at you because I've just bought my first pair of readers and actually they're not strong enough. So I spent all this money and I'm like, they're not even good enough. I'm so blind.
I use glasses all the time. It's just ridiculous. So this one says that early in July 1836, some boys were searching for rabbits' burrows in the rocky formation near Edinburgh known as Arthur's Seat. In the side of the cliff, they came upon some thin sheets of slate, which they pulled out. Notice he didn't say higgledy-piggledy. Far too much.
Because no one knows what the hell he's talking about.
Well, it's also not a posh enough word to be using in the London Times, probably.
Right.
Which they pulled out. Little cave, 17 tiny coffins, 3 or 4 inches long. In the coffins were miniature wooden figures. They were dressed differently in style and material. So each one was dressed differently in style and material. There were 2 tiers of 8 coffins each, and a third one begun with 1 coffin. So there was like different layers.
And they're
I know it's so spooky, isn't it?
Tiny.
It's so spooky.
And
so there was like 1 layer at the bottom of 8 on top, and then obviously room to have another 8 on top, but there was only 1.
That's so weird.
The extraordinary datum, which has especially made mystery here, that the coffins had been deposited singly in the little cave, but this is actually debatable. We'll talk about this in a bit.
Okay. At
intervals of many years. In the first tier, the coffins were quite decayed, and the wrappings had mouldered away. So the bottom tier, what they originally thought that they'd all been put in at different times, because the ones at the bottom were a lot more decayed than the ones above them. The fabric and all of that was,
so they thought they would be there for a older
and the wrappings had mouldered away. In the second tier, the effects of age had not advanced so far, and the top coffin was quite recent looking. Some were destroyed by the boys, who found them pelting them at each other. So basically,
wait a second, let me get this straight. They're like, hey, look at the mini coffins. And then they just start chucking them at each other as they rip them out of the ground.
Yeah.
Yes, I can imagine. Only because I have 3 boys. So yeah.
Yeah. So I've got this image in my head of these boys from the 1800s wearing like knee-length breeks, because that's what they would have wear.
Yes.
Knickerbockers, and like a bit scruffy, like caps on their heads or whatever.
I was just gonna say like newsy boy caps on their heads.
Yeah, Peaky Blinders style, but 1800s.
And they find
like finding these things and being like, I'm gonna throw it at you, Billy. No, Max, I'm gonna throw it at you.
100%. Yes, I can so see that.
At each other.
Yeah. Meanwhile, there's some like insanely precious and significant archaeological find.
I know.
What?
I know. So that's why we only have 8 left. And so we think then what happened to them. There's like a lot of debate, and I'm not going to go into it because it's really boring. We don't like this boring.
No, we got right to the lore chase.
Yeah, we talk about
we will go right to the good stuff. Yeah.
But they think that possibly the schoolmaster that was schoolmaster of the boys' school was like an amateur archaeologist, and he maybe found out, or maybe he heard the boys talking about it, and he went up and rescued the rest of them.
Oh, thank God.
And then they kind of got passed through a few hands. So they got sold to this guy who had his own little mini museum, and then he sold them on. And then they got donated to the National Museum of Scotland in the 1901.
Oh, are they still there?
Yes.
So we can go and see them. Oh, I'm so going on our next trip.
No,
that's really cool.
I know. So they're in the National Museum of Scotland, and there's only 8 left. Wow. So let's talk about them a little bit more. You've got the photos. So these are tiny coffins.
Okay, and I'm gonna put
these on super creepy.
And I'm gonna put these. Make sure that these are on the blog. So if you want to go to onescott.com and see them, because it definitely puts them into perspective, because they're so weird.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how whether so there was a podcast that I was listening to talking about this, and they said there was only one photo that was royalty free, but honestly I'm sure that the National Museum of Scotland aren't going to care if we have a photo from somewhere.
We credit the heck out of it. Wait, I just have one quick question for you. How the heck did you even know about this or hear about this? Because
Nikki Webb.
Oh, is that why?
From Nikki she said, have you heard about the coffins? And I was like, no, I'm going to go and find out.
And Nikki's coming on our next episode, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's coming on as a guest.
Thank you, Nikki. That's amazing.
Thank you, Nikki,
so
for like this super cool story.
Yeah, it is.
Which is like this so
it's random.
Like a folklore and a mystery
all together,
which is my favorite things in the universe.
Yeah. Me too.
So these coffins, they're like
random.
I know, and they've done quite a lot of analysis on them now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna talk about them in a little bit more detail, and then we'll go into what the theories are.
Okay.
Them. So to describe these coffins, oh my God, they're like the weirdest thing. I love this so much. There's nothing I love more than a weird mystery that can't quite be solved, that you feel that you have to go and dig deep on the internet and like try and come up with different theories and reasons why, and it's just absolutely fascinating.
Yes,
but they're also creepy. They're so creepy because each coffin was carved in wood.
Yeah,
and there's been a lot of obviously kind of forensic type of research on them in more recent times that probably wouldn't have been done in the 1900s or the 1800s.
But first of all, let's just describe them just plainly for a little bit, because I'm looking at the pictures right now. Lucy sent them to me before we started recording, and they look like just old-timey miniature coffins with weird wooden little people inside.
Yes, so they're all made out of wood with a wooden person inside, and each person has clothing on them that has been sewn.
Oh, really?
The weird thing is that the eyes are open, which is kind of creepy. There's open eyes on them, and obviously because only 8 remain, and also they're in different states of decomposition, because some of them were in the bottom layer, some of them the clothing is a little bit more decompositioned. What's the word?
Decomposed.
I didn't think of the word.
I'm looking at them up close right now.
When it gets hot in Scotland, we forget how to speak.
Oh, yeah, that's my excuse too. What the heck? How? And these are tiny, right?
And they're only 3 to 4 inches long.
That's tiny. And there's a lot of. This is so
There's a lot of detail.
Most random. I'm sorry.
Karen, can you imagine finding something like that?
Oh, they're tiny, and there's a lot.
Would you
of
have thrown
detail.
them at me if you'd found them?
No, I wouldn't start hurling teeny tiny coffin people at you. But I definitely could see boys doing it for sure. This is the most random freaking thing I've ever seen.
I know.
And the coffin tops are all creepy because they're inlaid with like stones and weird.
They're inlaid with metal. So so what they have is they've got the lids. So the lids were nailed down. They weren't even open. The lids were nailed down.
So they were like complete little
They were
sets.
closed.
Ew, that's even creepier with these little wooden figurines inside.
With little wooden figures.
What
and the lids were nailed with these little brass pins.
Right. That makes
sense.
Then
the lids had these little ornaments, these flat ornaments that are made out of small pieces of tin.
Okay, seriously, what the hell are these things? What the heck?
And so inside there are little wooden figures. So
this is so weird. All right, if you're watching YouTube, I'm holding up my phone so you can see the pictures. They're so weird.
There are loads of photographs. If you Google, there's loads of photos.
I'll put them on our blog for you. That's just the weirdest thing. Look at that guy. He's got like a plaid suit on.
Yeah. So the fabric is a little bit different in all of them. Most of them are cotton. I think there was one that was silk. There was one coffin that was the coffin itself was lined with paper and they dated. So they've done a lot of sort of dating of things. They dated that paper to the 1780s. But of course, the thing is that, you know, if you're anything like me, you've got stuff in your house. I've got stuff that belonged to my granny that is 40, 50 years old in my house.
Yeah.
So I've got fabric that I got in a charity shop that's not brand new fabric. So it's when you date things, you have to take that into consideration, that it could be something that it might not have been done in the 1700s, that was just something that person had that maybe was so old they were going to throw it out. So they decided to use it.
It's so random.
So the wood of the coffins was made with Scots pine, but the figures were not made with Scots pine. They were made with a different kind of wood. And some of the figures, 2 of the figures were painted like a pink or a red.
Okay.
But the rest of them weren't.
Okay. Are they all dated at the same time period? Or they?
Yeah. So originally they thought that these coffins had all been put in over a period of time. So remember, they were found in 1836, and I think that some of them were quite decomposed, so they thought they were a lot older. But they have actually been able to date them because I just find this stuff fascinating. I really want to be like a detective or a forensic thing.
Yeah.
Or I know I shouldn't say thing. That's not very professional. No one's going to give me a job as a forensic expert if I can't even call it that.
The thing. The very official thing.
Because so the thread that was used to sew the
clothes
figures.
Yeah.
There were different kinds of thread. So some of them had linen thread, some of them had cotton thread, but some of them had 1-ply thread, some of them had 2-ply thread, and some of them were sewn with 3-ply cotton thread. And 3-ply cotton thread was not manufactured or used in Scotland until at least, I think it was 1812.
Okay.
So they must,
so they're varying ages. Is that what you're getting at?
They think that they're all done around the same time, but certainly between 1800 and 1830. So it's not like they were done in 1700. They weren't like super old. They were all done around the same time.
In the early 1800s.
In the early 1800s.
But the question is why?
They think that one or possibly 2 people made them, because the coffins are carved. There's 2 sort of ways that the coffins have been carved. So one of the coffins, or some of the coffins were carved in a really rectangular way, and some of them were carved in a curved way. So they wonder whether there are two different people. They've even analyzed the kind of machinery that was used to carve them.
So weird. It's
definitely not somebody who normally would work with wood, because they didn't have access to a chisel. They've used a knife. So they think that it's possibly a shoemaker or somebody like that, because the metal that is put on the top of the coffins as decoration is the kind of metal that people use to make buckles of shoes.
Oh, interesting.
So they think that possibly it was a shoemaker. Now they think that the figures themselves were just toy soldiers that were reused for this purpose. And that is for a number of reasons, one of which is that the arms have been taken off so that they would fit inside the coffins.
Okay, I can see that.
And you can still see where the joints of the arms would have been, and also the feet of the figures were showing signs of being blackened, as if they had boots on. So they would have had the clothing of the toy soldiers taken off them, and then that's so weird, these clothes
weird
and put on.
This is the weirdest thing. I can't stop staring at the photos that you sent me. It's the weirdest thing
I know you're still waiting for Bible photos, but this is like even weirder than that Bible photo.
So yeah. And where the hell is that Bible photo?
I'll get it. It's okay. Shit, I better get it soon before my son comes home. So the other thing is that the figures themselves are like pretty much all the same size. There's only like a couple of millimeters difference. So they reckon this all came from like the same person, deposited by the same person, rather than different people.
All right. Where's the fairy tie-in? Because
just you wait.
Oh,
you're
my
so
God.
impatient.
I know. It's just like, it's just
you're like, tell me the spoiler right at the beginning, because I don't want to wait for it.
It's just so bizarre.
You have to wait for the build up.
I know. It's so
that's
weird.
The cool bit.
You're just doing a really good job, and that's why I
like teasing you. I can see that you're like, come on. Just wait.
It
makes it all so much sweeter when you wait.
I'm so excited. It's so weird.
You hear my cat? He
can't wait either. Go let him in.
He's just as impatient as you are.
Let him in. I feel for him. Go let him in. It's okay.
Okay. Well, we'll see. We'll see how he goes.
No, wait.
So there's quite a few theories. There's still, to this day, do not know what the hell these coffins are for. Like, there's no expert saying this is the answer, which is the thing that I find most intriguing, because I love a good mystery.
Yeah.
And I love that whole idea of I'd love to be if I had known about this subject when I was doing my history of art dissertation, I might have done these. I wish I'd known about this. I would have done this for my dissertation, but then I wouldn't have been able to fly to America and stay in a reservation for a whole summer, and that was pretty cool too. So
yeah, we're pretty cool over here. That's why.
I know. Anyway, so when they first found them, they had a couple of theories in the paper about what they thought they could be. And of course, the first one was a witchcraft. This is the fairy connection, because they were called the fairy coffins.
Oh, they were? Wow.
Yeah, they were called the fairy coffins. And they were also, so there was articles at the time where one article at the time said they'd found a fairy's burial place.
Weird. Why would they do that?
Because of the Arthur Seat connection, because of all of that notion of like mystery and stuff with Arthur Seat, but Arthur Seat has also been linked to witchcraft for a really long time.
Really?
And of course we know, because I was, when we have this happen every single week, where articles will mention something and they won't explain why. And we're like, well, why the fuck is it called a fairy coffin?
Yeah.
Nobody's explained that. They just say it.
Right.
And so I was trying to dig on that today, and I didn't have time to do like a whole heap of digging, but I've come to my own conclusions.
Ooh.
Because we know, you and me, from our extensive research over the last 15 weeks,
obviously,
that there's that connection in Scotland between witchcraft and fairies, and that whole thing of fairies luring witches to do their dirty deeds for them.
Fairies are pretty dark, so yes.
So I think that's where the fairy connection comes in, that even in the 1800s in Scotland, people were still making a connection between witches and fairies, and like the fairy realm was still alive and known at that time, and that connection between that and witchcraft. Because Arthur's Seat, apparently one area of Arthur's Seat was called the Haggis Knowe, Knowe, and I don't know why. Again, the website didn't explain what that has to do with witchcraft. And you're like,
let's dive into that.
I know,
what the heck?
But apparently it was believed that witches gathered in that area and they did like rituals and incantations. And there was a natural spring on Arthur's Seat that apparently featured in one of the earliest ever witch trials in Scotland. So in 1572, there was this woman called Janet Boyman. I think Janet must be sort of another Scots way of saying Janet. Yeah, possibly Janet Boyman, and she came from Canongate in Edinburgh, which is an area of Edinburgh. And she was, I love this, she was brought to trial for diabolical incantations.
Yes. Go Janet.
Go Janet. Go Janet. I love a bit of diabolical incantations. I do.
I'm a little jealous, actually.
So apparently it was alleged that she did this at the well on Arthur's Seat. The well was called Eldritch Well. It must be where the natural spring was.
Okay.
So the initial theory, the first theory that the papers, when it was found in 1836, was that these had something to do with witchcraft. And so I'm going to read you another quote because the quote is just too hilarious, and there's no point in like paraphrasing it.
Love it,
because this gives you an insight into what they thought as well in the 1800s rather than my 2021
paraphrasing
brain.
It. Sure. Yeah.
Our own opinion would be, had we not some years ago abjured witchcraft and demonology, that there are still some of the weird sisters hovering about Wishart's Cairn or the Windy Gowl, who retain their ancient power to work the spells of death by entombing the likenesses of those they wish to destroy.
Ooh.
Should this really be the case, we congratulate the public, but more especially our superstitious friends, on the discovery and destruction of this satanic spell manufactory, the last, we should hope, which the infernal hags will ever be permitted to erect in Scotland.
Oh, that's so good.
That's brilliant, isn't it?
So good. I love that.
I know.
Yes.
I know. So like even in the 1830s, they had this notion that there were witches around that were making these figures. So this is obviously to do with connected with voodoo.
Yes.
And even though these figures are all male figures, and I'm saying that in kind of quotation marks, because I personally, all the websites I read were really hung up on the fact that these were all male figures. So they had to be something to do with male deaths. But I don't think that's necessarily true. I think it's the fact that they were male, they would have been male toy soldiers. So they just put clothes on them that happened to be trousers, which is pants for our American viewers. And is that the corridor? Is that the corridor of this
Wait, what is trousers? I don't even know what you're saying right now.
Well, sometimes I say a word and you go mental because you haven't got a clue what I'm saying. So I've got to assume with it. It's like that.
Hey, trousers we are aware of. Thank you.
Okay. I just didn't want to assume.
So good. Every episode, everyone. This is one word. What is a trouser? I don't even know what you're saying right now, Lucy. My husband Sean was saying slacks the other. He kept saying slacks over and over and over. Slacks.
That's such a 1940s
I'm like, stop
word.
saying slacks. Nobody says that word. Just say pants. We know I know what you mean.
Slacks. Is he from the 1940s?
Slacks.
Were you in an episode of I Love Lucy?
Apparently we are. But I feel the same way about trousers, but that's okay. Thank you.
Trousers is the Scottish word, is the English word.
We Americans are aware of the word trousers. Thank you. Yes, we know what those
breeks.
Are. We don't say breeks.
But you know what breeks are?
Yes.
Okay.
But we would just say pants. But trousers is a word.
You do realize that when you're in Scotland or even England for that matter, pants is like what you wear under your trousers.
Oh, so pants are like a short for underpants? Is that what you mean?
It's your underwear.
No, pants is like
so
outer.
If I go out of the
pants.
house in my pants, I'm not pleasing
You're
anybody,
and
I'm in a sight that nobody wants to see.
I actually love that. I did not know that. No, pants here are just outer pants. They're not underpants. You would say underwear for pants, I guess.
Well, my pants are not for public viewing.
Okay. Our pants are for public viewing, but they mean the outer pants, not the underpants.
God, it's so complicated.
It's really complicated. But
did your country purposely change words when you got when you declared independence from us?
Yes, we did. We purposefully changed our words.
Everyone, it's 1776. Let's not call them trousers and pants. They are now pants. Underwear and pants. That'll really fuck with the English's head.
Yeah, fuck you. We have our own words now. Yep, that's what we did. We're
not going to call it a corridor. We're going to call it a hallway. God damn it.
And a sidewalk is not pavement. Thank you. It is a sidewalk. Let it be known.
And see that rubbish that you've got out there? It's trash, okay? It's trash.
No more. That
will make money in 200 years by making online dictionaries that people have to translate.
Because it's so complicated. Meanwhile, every word's like exactly the same.
Okay, back to the coffin.
Okay, anywho, where were we?
No, we were on about underwear, pants. I can't remember. Witchcraft.
Okay, witchcraft. Yeah, let's serious it up. Okay.
Yeah. So I read this website that said lots of people dismiss this idea of witchcraft. And I think like any academic type journal, every single website I read latched onto one of the theories and was like, that's the one, that's the truth.
Right.
And so I think the woman that wrote this one maybe was like a little bit witchy inclined because she's like, I think it's the witchcraft one. But she was saying, I'm saying she, it could have been a he. This person was saying that the voodoo aspect of witchcraft, there's a long-standing tradition of making miniature dolls to inflict pain and punishment on people and make curses. But this notion that the the doll has to look like the person is not true. That
No,
is more of a
doesn't
modern.
it doesn't have to be exactly an exact
Yeah.
replica of someone.
So what they would do in the past was it could be actually the fabric could have belonged to the person, so they could take like a bit of somebody's clothing and make the doll out of that person's clothing, which is why the dolls in these coffins all have different clothing. That could be one of the reasons, because the clothing represents the person,
the actual person.
Yeah, the actual person. Or they could take part of somebody's hair, although there's no hair in these, and hair doesn't,
thank God, because that's
disintegrate
gross.
in coffins. It's
gross.
still there. Mummies still have their hair, so there's no actual body parts. They actually did try and do DNA analysis on these and didn't get any DNA.
Well, because there's no DNA in them, right? They're just like wooden.
Yeah, but I guess if somebody if somebody'd sewn and pricked themselves while they were sewing, or there could be DNA on the cloth from fingerprints or whatever. It's amazing what they can do now, but
and they're not that old, really. I mean, they're only 200 years old at the most.
200 years old, yeah. So I don't know whether they were for witchcraft or not. I just love the phrase of satanic spell manufacturing.
I just love that so much.
It's like, I can just imagine if this was reported on nowadays in the Sun or something like that, there's being like the headline, satanic spell manufacturing.
Yeah, yes.
But they've also, in the National Museum on their website, they showed an example of how this also went on with other things. So they've actually got a calf's heart that's been stuck with pins.
Ew.
And that was used in witchcraft, but there are no pins in these coffins in the figures. So they're not quite sure whether it's, a lot of websites dismiss the witchcraft notion, but witchcraft was definitely the first one that in the 1830s, they said it could be. This, it was also suggested, I'm being really rubbish. I'm not actually quoting any websites.
No, I disagree. I was actually going to say, I think you're doing an amazing job.
Well, what I mean is my sources, sorry, I don't actually remember what my sources were, but there's loads of websites and YouTube videos and other podcasts on this. So I got a little bit confused over who and we're all saying the same thing, but we're saying it better.
Fine. Yeah, you are. Totally.
Nobody else talked about pants and underwear.
Yeah, no one else made that distinction. You're welcome.
So it's also thought that possibly these could be like an effigy to commemorate a dead child, and that they were buried somewhere special, which you know how, I don't know if you get this in the States, I bet you do, but if someone dies in a car accident side the road, people will leave flowers and photographs and stuff. So they think that possibly this could have been an early 19th century version of 18. But that's the thing, there are 18. So I can't believe that
I don't believe that one
woman would have had 18 children. And I can't believe
18 dead children. I mean, that's a lot.
Although I went on a grave hunting expedition.
Of course you did.
With my cousin at Unseen Aberdeenshire the other day. And we came across a grave in a local graveyard that had 6 or 7 dead children. Yeah. But not 18. It was super sad though. It was like basically like really the husband died, all the children died, and then the wife. I know, and then the wife lived to like 89 or something, and it was like, that is so sad. That is so sad. And her children died like age 1, age 3, age 15 months. It was just so sad.
It's really sad.
I know. Anyway, I don't believe, although if they were made by 2 people, possibly there could be 9 and 9, but I still think it's a little bit weird.
I feel like that's not the case though, because these aren't like baby dolls.
Well,
the
only thing, Karen, is that I think the use of the toy soldiers is just a convenience. Like, we've got something that looks like a figure.
Okay.
And also, rather than having to carve one that looks like a baby, if this was the case. But also, I've been to Japan, and there are Buddhist temples.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're Buddhist ones. Maybe they're Shinto. I'm not sure. There are temples in Japan. There was one particular one that I went to that was dedicated. It was well known for having rows and rows and rows and rows of little miniature figures that represented dead children.
Ooh.
And each little miniature figure, people would come along and they would like knit hats and scarves and stuff for them and put them on the figure. And that actually reminded me of these when I saw the mention of dead children. I was like, oh my God, that's so similar to that experience I had in Japan with these little miniature figures, where the miniature figures weren't babies. They were just miniature figures, like little statues, but each one represented a child that somebody'd lost.
Oh, it's so sad.
And it was a way of the parents having this memory of this child. So it is possible, but the only thing I would say to that theory is, let's throw it out the window right now, because Dr. Lucy, PhD fairyologist, is gonna say that if they were discovered in 1836 and they're dated to like 1820 to 30, the people that had hidden them for dead babies would have come forward and said, this isn't witchcraft, this is for my dead baby.
Right. I agree, because it's like just kind of, maybe it would have been 10 years ago or something.
And also,
I feel like it's not the 10 babies thing.
Yeah. And I think there would have been a knowledge in Edinburgh that was sort of a rumor knowledge that that's what you did if you wanted to commemorate your dead baby.
I think so too. I think so.
One thing that none of these articles, in all of their conjecture and mentioned, in all of their theories, none of them mentioned the fact that these were literally found like less than 10 years after they were buried.
Right.
And so it must have been something secret and wicked and dirty, because nobody came forward to say they were my coffins, I buried them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
I do know what you mean. And I feel like this sounds kind of weird, but I feel like if it was some mother who was lamenting the loss of her child, I feel like just as a mom, I would be able to resonate in some respects to that.
Yeah.
And when I'm looking at this,
the moms would have known, like in Japan, everyone knows if you've got a dead child and you want to mourn them in this way,
right?
You buy one of these statues and you put them in that graveyard.
Yeah. But
that temple.
Yeah, so, and also that's not like a Scottish thing. That's not like what people are doing, right? So I feel like I'm super open, so I'm open to the possibilities that like of all these theories, right? Like, because we wouldn't be doing this podcast if we weren't people that were open to hearing about, crazy ideas, because we are super open-minded about that.
Really? Are you sure?
A little bit. So I'm like, I don't mind taking a minute and putting myself in the shoes of the people that are doing all of this. And just as a mom, trying to honor, the passing of a child. I feel no sense.
Put it in a kirkyard. You wouldn't put it on the side of a hill.
And I'm not even religious, so I wouldn't even put it in a kirkyard. But that's what I'm saying.
If you lived in the 1830s in Scotland, you would have been religious, because everybody was.
For sure. But I'm just saying, even if I wasn't, like, I'm open. I'm like, okay, let's pretend for a minute and sit with this idea. And I feel absolutely no connection whatsoever as if this was a mother mourning. I don't buy that theory, not for a second.
No. But I also think it's as simple as nobody came forward when there were these articles in the newspaper saying it was witchcraft or it was this or that, and what were these for, to say it's just my dead baby, and or nobody came forward to say that's Mary down the street's dead baby,
right.
like we all know that we can do that, and like that lady in that street did it, and that lady in that street did it.
Right.
I think if it was a case of that, it would have been known. And this was something that even at the time it was found was a mystery. So if it's a mystery and nobody says what it is, then it's, to me, it's something a lot weirder than
I
that.
think so too. I agree with you. This is
so
freaking awesome.
I know.
So
there's
weird.
another theory, and this was also touted around the same time when they were found, that it could have been something to do with dead sailors. So there are two different ways that it could have been dead sailors. So the first one was that there was apparently a superstition that sailors would give their wives a little figure like this in a coffin, or a little miniature coffin, so that if something happened to them when they were at sea and they couldn't get a proper burial, the wife would then bury the coffin.
Okay.
But would they bury it on the side of Arthur's seat?
Yeah, that's a little weird.
But also, you've got the same, would they all be buried in that same little cave?
I know, that's weird.
It's not like there was a sign at the bottom of Arthur's seat saying, bury your dead cave, miniatures here. Go up this path. So, like, unless it was a rumor that went round and round and round the whole of Edinburgh, like, if that happens, you go up here. There's not going to be one woman with 17 dead husbands, unless she's a bit of a floozy, and there's not going to be 17 different women, all with a dead husband, that all knew to go to that particular cave and then didn't say anything when they got found.
Agreed. I agree. So I don't agree with
that theory either.
No, I don't either.
So it's also thought that sailors took these coffins with them as like a talisman, a type of good luck charm when they went to sea, so to stop them from dying when they were at sea, and that people would make them and sell them to the sailors. But what this was mentioned by somebody, I think, in Germany, so it wasn't actually necessarily a Scottish custom, it was a more of a European custom. But also they put mandrake roots inside the coffins, not little figures dressed in cloth sewn together. So I'm throwing that one out the window as well.
Yeah.
And also, why would the manufacturer would have a little shop in the high street? They wouldn't bury them in Arthur's seat. Yeah,
I know. I do.
They wouldn't, like, because they would know that they would get all moldy and disgusting, so they wouldn't. It's why would they be found there? So I think we're gonna throw that one.
I agree.
That one's going out to sea.
Yeah,
along with the dead babies.
Yeah, I agree. No, I'm with you. I'm totally with you. Yeah,
because we're experts at this.
Well, clearly, we're obviously.
So the next theory that a load of folks say is rubbish, but I think is the most plausible, is the creepiest. And that is the link to Birkenhead. So have you heard of Birkenhead?
Yes, I have. Because I just listened to the Tenfold Wicked podcast.
Wicked. So guys, if you want to listen to a whole series of podcasts on Birkenhead, Tenfold More Wicked is such a good podcast.
Yes, it is.
And she explains in a whole bunch of episodes. So she really goes deep dive into it. It's not just one episode. I'm going to speak about Birkenhead for like 2 seconds, because Karen wants to get on to the meat and potatoes of this episode, and we don't want to be talking about Birkenhead for like another hour. But if you want to find out loads about Birkenhead, that's a great episode. But to summarize super quick, Birkenhead. So at the time, there were what was called body snatchers, because a lot of the universities were doing medical experiments on corpses in order to further their knowledge of the human anatomy and body. And it was quite common for people to be stolen from their graves after they died. And there were certain things that people would put into place in order to stop this from happening. So you could get metal coffins that people would be put in these locked metal coffins.
Mhm.
You could also get what looked almost like a set of like a grip that went around your neck. So you would be dead and you would be in your coffin and you would have this like metal, almost like a cable tie, a metal cable tie that would tie you to the coffin so that you couldn't be taken out of the coffin. But Burke and Hare were lazy and they decided to sidestep all of this. So what happened was they had one person who died by accident in their board. They had a boarding house. They were Irish, not Scottish, but they lived in Edinburgh. And they had one person who died by accident in their boarding house. And so they decided to sell the body to Dr. Knox, who was a surgeon at the university. And then, of course, they got the wicked idea that this was like a super easy way, because you would get money for each body. So this was a super easy way of making money. So they then went on a murder rampage. They were serial killers. They never actually dug up any bodies. They weren't body snatchers. They were murders. And so between the years of 2017, that's not right.
That's right. Uncomfortably close.
1827, I think, and 1828, they killed 16 people, and then their first death, which wasn't a murder, makes it 17. So the numbers match up. 17 people were killed, one by accident by Burke and Hare.
Yeah, they would deliver fresh bodies for a scientific exploration.
So what they would do is they would get people who were a bit homeless or drunkards or people that were just visiting town and had no connections, prostitutes. They would get them super drunk on whiskey, and then they would smother them to death, and then they would sell the body to John Knox. And then they finally got caught. They got a little bit sloppy and they got caught. And then, in true evil murderer with no scruples style, Hare told on Burke in order to save his own life. So he ratted out Burke. Burke got hung. Hare managed to escape, and apparently they think he went back to Ireland. And Burke got hung, and then I know I'm giving total tenfold more wicked spoilers here, but if you want the real gory details, go listen to that podcast.
Yeah.
And then he got dissected. And
yeah,
do you want to know
say
some creepy thing?
Yes, I do.
There's a little leather notebook in a museum that apparently is made from his
skin. I knew you were going to say that. And it's way more sordid than that, because it was like their wives were involved.
Oh yeah.
And there was murder plots. I mean, it is you really glossed over. It's so freaking interesting.
Yeah, so their wives were involved in it as well, and
there was like murder plots for them, and there were it's all sorts of sordid.
It's such a fascinating story.
And the worst part is they came away with like amazing like medical advances because of that's like the worst part of all of it. It was like they actually contributed quite a bit to the knowledge of like the scientific like know-how medical advances of the day.
Don't go and get someone super drunk on whiskey and kill them in order to
it's horrible, but it's just
find out how the heart works.
The irony of the fact that they were doing good with their evil of their dark evilness is really disturbing.
I know. So I think this is the most plausible, and a lot of people say, oh, it doesn't work because some of these coffins are dated to the 1830s, but but Burke was hung in 1829, I think, early 1829. They were doing the murders in 27 to 28, but I think it's possible that somebody who I think it possibly could have been the wives feeling guilty. and making little figures to represent the people that were killed in their guilt, and giving them these little secret, because it's a secret. They were secreted away.
I know. Well, that's much more plausible than the other two possibilities.
And there are a load of people that say it's not possible because most of Birkenhere's victims were women, and these are men. But I think people are focusing too much on the fact that these are dressed as men. I don't think that sometimes
they're not
things
actual,
are just done by accident.
Yeah.
It's not like they've sewn penises onto them.
Right? I know what you mean.
I knew I wasn't going to try and go there, but I had to.
Sometimes it's just accidental. Yeah.
Like, I think they just put clothes on. They weren't
think so too.
Trying to put makeup and little necklaces to show
they were
literal.
Women. It's not literal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think this is the most plausible, just because the numbers match up.
Yes.
But the fact that they are put away in this little secret place, it's almost like guilt there. There's like all this guilt, or somebody who, after Birkenhair were caught, felt bad about all these murders and wanted to just do something to commemorate, kind of give these people
recognize the fact that these things happened. Wow, I really like that theory.
Yeah, me too.
That's only because I've also those series of podcasts is actually fresh in my mind.
Yeah,
and maybe that is why. But I think it's much more plausible to me than the other ones that you actually came forward with, which is funny. It's not like we planned this. I didn't know you were even talking about this today. That's actually really cool.
I know. I think it's most likely something to do with Birkenhair. And
that's an interesting coincidence for sure.
It's too much of a coincidence. Yeah. And that theory wasn't put together until much later. So the other ones were mentioned like when they found them in the newspapers. And this one, it wasn't until like the 1900s sometime.
When they looked
after they had done, but they'd also dated them. They'd done all that investigation, and with the cotton thread, and the fact that the cotton thread wasn't around until the 1800s and stuff. That that's what's dated them to a much narrower time frame,
right?
And then they took a look and they were like, what happened in Edinburgh?
Oh my god! And that's what was happening during. Wow, Lucy, that's really freaking interesting.
I think it's something to do with that, regardless of what other people think. They can think what they like. This is my podcast.
I like it.
This is our podcast.
I like that. I mean, it's actually more plausible.
Yeah,
it's much more plausible, and because it's so relevant to exactly what was going on. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that once that news got out, I mean, that was like,
because it was such a big, huge news sensation. There were like thousands of people that went to see him being hung, hung, whatever the word is. And it could have just been some woman down the street, like not actually Birkenhair, but some woman down the street that was really
just like, let's just
struck by this
and like commemorate them, or
let's just.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, Lucy, I like that.
Because a lot of people dismiss it because they're like, well, they're 17 and they only killed 16, and the 17th one, they got caught. I think it was they got caught just as they'd murdered that person, or just as they were delivering the person to Knox. So how would Birkenhair have had time to make that 17th coffin? But it doesn't have to be Birkenhair that made that coffin. It could just be somebody in Edinburgh that really felt for the situation.
Not only that, Lucy, but the fact that these people were murdered and brought and robbed of their opportunity to be buried properly in coffins and buried. It's almost like they were doing that on their behalf.
Exactly.
That's fucking crazy.
I know.
Oh my god.
So for me, that's the main theory.
Yeah.
Can I tell you a weird, funny one as well?
Yeah. But wait.
So this last theory that I'm going to talk about, I'm only going to talk about because it's just like super weird, weird and strange.
I'm all about it.
and probably a load of bullshit, but just weird and strange because
Cool.
it's called the deaf man theory.
The deaf man theory?
Yeah. So apparently in 1906, some lady who lived in Edinburgh, she claimed that her father had been visited by a deaf man who had drawn a picture of 3 small coffins on a piece of paper and put dates next to them. And the dates that he put next to them were 1837, 1838, and 1840.
Okay.
So after the coffins were found.
Right.
A year after the coffins were found. So not long after the coffins were discovered, he must have done that. The story was a bit like the story was a bit short on proper facts. Like it was a wee bit hard to read what was said in this story. So I think that this man visited the lady's grandfather before the coffins were found.
Oh, okay.
And he wrote these dates, like almost like he was telling the future. Mm-hmm. Like a prophecy or something.
Okay.
And then the coffins were discovered and he came back to visit the grandfather, and apparently he glowered at him. In one recounting of the story, he came back, glowered at the grandfather, stormed out of the grandfather's place, shop or whatever. And then in one article, it says a relative of this grandfather died in 1837. In another article, it says that the father died in 1837. So I'm not sure. It doesn't actually really matter. We're splitting hairs here.
Yeah.
And then 2 more relatives of this guy died in 1838 and 1840. So the 3 dates that the man wrote on the the pictures of the coffins.
Okay.
And that's all that theory says.
What?
Which to me is intriguing, because it's like, did he make the coffins and then anticipate people's deaths? Was he some sort of like death?
Something?
The death who comes with the scythe and the big thing, to like something from Terry Pratchett that could like predict when you're gonna die. I'm gonna stand over you. Oh, I'm dying now. Like, come with me. Or was he a seer? Or was he or God? Like, I don't know. It's a weird theory, because it's weird. A deaf man who comes, writes dates in the future. Right. Those people die, and he gives that guy a dirty look. But none of it makes any sense. And I found it so intriguing that I wish I knew more about it. And that's why I'm talking about it now. Okay. Because none of it makes any sense to me or whatsoever. And it's, again, one of these things, I think, because when you read articles and stuff like this, and when you listen to other podcast episodes who clearly don't want to be 2 hours long like we are, things get condensed and shortened. Right. And so when you do your research, you're like, what? Right. What does that mean? That's like a short version. It doesn't make any sense. I want to know what the whole this was about. Story.
Yes. I know. Yeah.
So do your research, guys, and we'll do our research, and maybe in our Instagram photos we can have a discussion. We can like do a little bit more research about the deaf man. I'd love to learn more. Yeah. If anyone knows anything more about this deaf man, then please tell us, because
I'm with you. I mean,
cool.
Yes, it is super cool.
I know. So just to round up our very extensive discussion on these super cool coffins, I've got a couple of fun facts for you.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Because I do have a few more like a bit boring theories, like, it's just like loads of illness at that time in Edinburgh.
Yeah, that's not exciting.
It's boring. It's so boring. We're not going to talk about it. We want this. We want the meat and the juices.
Yeah, I don't want anything that makes
meat and the
that's
juices.
simple and makes sense. That's super boring.
We're obviously the sensational newspapers version of the podcast. We don't want the boring
That's
stuff.
right.
We want the
That's right. Maggie wants all the news. She's here.
Oh, she's so cute. She's such a cute dog. So, did you know that before Birkenhair, there was another notorious Edinburgh resident called Deacon Brodie? Now, I have spent rather a lot of time in Deacon Brodie's tavern.
I have too. I was going to say, I'm like, I know. Yes.
Without realizing that was named after an actual person.
Oh, really? It's because you're not a tourist. See, you actually learn more when you come to yours.
I know. I was too busy getting drunk because my brother, when I was a teenager.
That's where my kids we had their first haggis meal there. And by the way, they all loved it.
Is it on the Royal Mile?
Mm-hmm.
Deacon Brodie's Tavern?
Yes.
So
yes, it is.
Not only did I not know he was a real person, but if I had suspected he was a real person, I think I would have just thought that it was like some official of Edinburgh. But he was actually notorious because he was an official of Edinburgh. He was a tradesman and a councillor. He was quite this respectable person on the surface, but by day, respectable councillor, by night, notorious burglar.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know he had a nefarious side.
Yeah, he was a naughty boy who burgled, and he planned to burgle the excise office in Edinburgh, but he got caught and he was hung.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And then his little dog sat by his side for 18 years or whatever.
That's Greyfriars Bobby.
That is Greyfriars Bobby.
You're getting your story. You're getting your tourist stories mixed up.
Sorry. Yes. Sorry.
Well, maybe we should do an episode on that.
We should.
One point, because there's so many cool, interesting Edinburgh stories. Like so many cool ones.
Yes.
But so apparently Deacon Brodie, he was hung in front of 40,000 people.
What?
And he had this collection of lock picks that he used to pick locks in Edinburgh. And they are actually in the National Museum. So this was in the 1700s. So it was before the Coffins. But they're in the National Museum of Scotland. And apparently they had been hidden at Salisbury Crags, which is next to Arthur's Seat, which is part of the Arthur's Seat thing. They'd been hidden in the ground there as well as the Coffins.
My goodness. First of all, I just have to say you're making me really I was gonna say homesick, but that's
for Edinburgh
kind of messed up because I'm not from
making
there.
Me want to go to
it's
Edinburgh,
making me just pine for it.
I know,
because I really do. I miss it so much. And Maggie is. Can you hear her? She's groaning in the background. Maggie,
she's missing Edinburgh as well.
What are you doing?
You have to come over.
Me.
Look at her. Look at her face. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see this super cute dog. If you're not, you haven't got a clue what we're talking about.
Why are you not petting my belly right now? And it's just making me literally die.
Well, you
for
need
it.
to come over so we can go on an Edinburgh trip. Maggie's come to say hi to us.
Who's my good girl?
She's so cute.
Are you a good girl? She's my she's like 60 pounds.
And also the weird thing is that Robert Louis Stevenson, we were speaking about the J.K. Rowling and George R.R. Martin kind of inspiration.
Sorry, she's getting hungry.
Just made
she's making noises.
An earlier version of that was Robert Louis Stevenson, because Robert Louis Stevenson kind of adapted the story of Deacon Brodie and made Jekyll and Hyde.
Oh, okay.
He adapted the story. He adapted the story of Birkenhair to make the book The Body Snatcher. So
Can
he
I just
took
say,
those two big stories and made these novels out of them.
Okay, you're killing this episode. I just have to tell you,
there's just so many interesting things to this subject.
So fascinating.
So even cooler than that is that in 2014, in 2014, the National Museum of Scotland received a package. And the package was a replica of one of the coffins.
Shut up, really?
I know. And it had a label on it that had XV111, which is 18. So like with a question mark. So is this number 18?
Oh, I see.
Because there were 17 coffins. And it was inscribed, and I'm going to read it out. And it said, and I actually haven't read this yet, so this is a surprise to me too. I just copy and pasted the photo into my notes. So it had XV111 question mark, to the National Museum of Scotland, a gift for caring for our nation's treasures, especially the V118, the 8, that means the coffins, the 8 coffins, I guess.
Okay.
The 8 coffins. And as Fetus took the lamp, his companion united the fastening of the sack and drew down the cover from the head. The light fell very clear upon the dark, well-moulded features and smooth, shaven cheeks of a too familiar countenance, often beheld in dreams of both of these young men. A wild yell rang up into the night. Each leaped from his own side into the roadway. The lamp fell, broke, and was extinguished, and the horse, terrified by this unusual commotion, bounded and went off toward Edinburgh at a gallop, bearing along with it, sole occupant of the gig, the body of the dead and long dissected Grey.
Ooh.
So I think that must be a quote from the Body Snatchers, possibly. But it's just so weird. Like, someone's just done this anonymously. Now, the thing is that there was a period in Edinburgh, and I think it was around that time, so it's like nearly 10 years ago, where there was somebody leaving book sculptures all around Edinburgh.
Really?
Anonymously. I know.
Really?
If maybe we'll do a separate episode on that.
Yes,
super cool.
Absolutely.
And
should.
they were, and nobody knew where they came from. And they were absolutely fucking amazing.
Wow.
They were those, you know, those sculptures where it's like a book that's open and all the pages are like carved into.
Yeah.
And they were works of art. Like, they're still up. They're in museums and stuff now.
Really?
But they would just be like, people would walk into the museum in the morning and we'd like left there. Somebody had left it anonymously.
Oh my gosh.
It was just, and they were left in various different places that were throughout the city, kind of known landmarks and things. And so they think that possibly this little miniature coffin is connected with that.
Wow.
Is something to do with that. So somebody who loved Edinburgh and loved Edinburgh's history decided to leave these anonymous little secret gifts, which to me is like just as secret as those ones being left in Arthur's seat.
Right.
It's like carrying on the mystery of it all. I love it.
God, I love that so much.
I
I love that so much.
I know. It's just so cool.
I don't even have the capacity to register all the cool things. It's like just insane.
Well, we are the coolest country after all.
I know. I'm in. I mean, that's why I'm here. That's really cool.
Last final thing is, if you want to watch a TV program that uses the coffins as inspiration or read a book, there's an Ian Rankin novel called The Falls. And there's also Rebus was his name of his Detective Rebus. Ian Rankin's a famous Scottish author. Okay. I think I got his name right at the name of the
taking notes.
And he so one of his books, which also got made into a television episode, which I watched, by the way, out of the manner of research. It was on STV Player if you live in Scotland, and it's called The Falls. And funnily enough, it had her from Game of Thrones and the Tudors, Natalie Dormer, very young Natalie Dormer in the episode. And in that episode, it features people getting murdered and these little miniature coffins getting left in. So he used that as inspiration. And then in the episode, the detective goes to the National Museum, because it's all set in Scotland, goes to the National Museum of Edinburgh to find out about the real coffins and whether there's a connection between the real coffins and these coffins. I know.
What? My mind is literally blown from this whole episode. Oh,
that's all I've got for you. That's the end.
That was
sorry, it was so long.
Are you serious? I'm like on the edge of my seat the entire time. It's just fascinating.
It's like fairy and folklore and witchcraft and history and murder mysteries.
Yes.
And all wrapped up, and archaeology all wrapped up in one.
Oh my God.
And naughty preteen boys throwing things.
I know. Wow. I don't even know what to say. My mind is like a buzz with all the different theories and possibilities. And
I feel like I want to write a paper on it.
Do it.
I haven't got time for that shit. No. It's enough work researching 4 pages.
I know. You honestly knocked my socks off, though. I mean, I just had no idea. I've never even heard a whisper about these
Thank you,
things.
Nikki, because I hadn't either.
Thank you, Nikki.
Now I'm obsessed with these little mini coffins.
Oh, that's just fascinating.
Yeah. Although they kind of also haunt my dreams a little bit because they are super creepy looking.
It is. Yeah, it's so weird and random. But also, I love all the theories though, because it means people are like taking time to like sit and really trying to figure it out. And I wonder if it isn't just like pranksters, like it's just, is it nothing,
that's the thing.
Or
that's
is
the
it
thing is that
something huge? You don't know.
Quite often when things come from the past, or we like dig something up from the past, people try and put all these meanings onto them, and they also try and tick all the boxes, like the thing about them being men. Oh, well, that doesn't fit, so I'm going to throw that theory out, without realizing that it might just be that somebody happened to have toy soldiers in their house that they'd already sewn clothes onto, and they were like, oh, I can stick them in the coffins, and they weren't thinking about
it. Doesn't have to be literal.
Hang on a minute,
like it's not literal.
Hang on a minute, like 12 of Birkenhair's victims were women, so I better change their clothes to dress so somebody in the future knows that this was a woman and not a man. I just think that sometimes those things don't need to be analyzed in that way, because we are not always systematic and methodical as humans. Sometimes we just pick the thing up from the corner cupboard and use it without thinking about why. I know. Oh, my brain is a buzz, literally. And also, who's to say that the boys who threw them around didn't do it with the ones that were dressed in women's clothing? Right. Because they're the ones that haven't survived. So everyone focuses on the fact that these are not women, but there are 9 that didn't survive that could have been women's clothing. So is it word of mouth from the boys how many there were in total? I think it must be, or whoever went to retrieve them, whatever schoolmaster whipped their asses for throwing some around and destroying them. Can you imagine? I bet they got the cane for that. Well, those days, Right. Absolutely. Early 1800s. Well, I can't wait to ask Nikki when she comes on. Oh, I'm so excited to speak to her. I know where she heard about that too. Because I've never, not that I'm a freaking expert on anything, but that's just really interesting. I know. It's so random. It's so totally random, but it's so cool. Like, I love it. I love it. It's like a super mystery. It is a super mystery. It's going to have us thinking. If anyone wants to write in, if you've got any extra theories about what this might be, remember that you can contact us on our website, onesgotoneknot.com. Yeah. Or I want to know. Yeah, that's really Instagram. That's so cool, Lucy. You did such a good job. Thank you. Wow. That's very cool. I'm glad you did something a little bit I want to say cerebral, something with that has a little bit of different theories, because I think I'm doing something similar on the next episode that I'm doing research for. Are you going to say this, or are you going to keep it a secret? Keep us guessing. I'm going to keep it a secret. I'm doing a deep dive into something at the moment. But I was wondering, but in the back of my head, I'm like, is that too general? Is it like too big of a topic? You know what I mean? And is it more interesting to do something a little bit like
more narrow, but it's similar in that it has different theory. Like here's the idea and here's the
we
different
want all the
theories.
topics, Karen. We want them all, don't we?
That's true.
It doesn't
Why limit
actually matter what
ourselves?
order we cover them in because we want them all.
That's true.
So they're all interesting, aren't they?
I think so. That was riveting.
Yeah.
It really was. Such a bizarre, like
Yeah.
modern thing. And I'm glad you touched on Burke and Hare too, because I've been listening to those series of podcasts on, and I was like, ooh, we definitely need to be talking about them in some respect, because that was a very important.
I mean, we could easily do an episode on them at some point, but I think Temple Moore, we could really do them justice.
She's amazing.
Because she's such an amazing storyteller.
Yeah, she is.
But we could do like a one episode on Burke and Hare at some point.
I think we should. I would feel irresponsible by not just doing just having a nod to them, you know,
because even though we're mostly super interested in like mythology and folklore and fairies, but like there's also some really cool Scottish history stuff like that we're sure to touch on at some point.
Absolutely.
Like super dark Scottish history that Burke and Hare are specifically dark, but there's a few others I think as well. In Scotland, we don't have quite so many crazy serial killers as you do in America, but we probably have our fair share.
You do. I mean, I like that yours are like killing people, but then also like contributing to the welfare of entire humankind.
Do you really think that they were doing it for that reason?
No, not at all.
They were doing it for the money.
Money. Yes.
They were doing it for the money and because they were evil. Bastards.
Yes. Yeah, they were. They were. Oh, I know. I'm still fresh from that series.
Did you know, like, fun fact, without going into Burke and Hare too much, that to kill somebody in that manner by squeezing their nose so they smother is called to burke somebody.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, that's messed up.
So like that specific manner of murder is named after the people who
that's really messed up. No, I did not know that.
It in their killing, in their what's it called? Their MO.
Yes.
Of killing.
Yes. Well, hold on one second.
I know.
No, I did not know that. And that's super messed up. What most disturbs me about learning about them is the fact that they would deliver. There was like one in particular, I think her name was Mary, and she was a prostitute, but she was like, she was beautiful and she was warm when she arrived at the students' table for their dissection, and they were like, she was still warm, but mostly the men who were doing it were like, it was so disarming because she was so beautiful, and they were like,
don't curve over a dead corpse. That's gross.
And they were like, and it was like, had she not been so striking, it was like, I think they all just sat there like, this is really messed up. Like,
it was such a messed up.
It's just really messed up.
I think that some of the Edinburgh tours also cover the areas that Burke and Hare frequented, don't they? Especially down near the I was going to say sewers, but it's not, the tunnels in Edinburgh. What's it called? The vaults. There's areas around there that were frequented by Burke and Hare in the places that they would go to pick people up.
They definitely are.
When you can come to Scotland, you're coming to Scotland. We're gonna go on a road trip to Edinburgh. We're gonna go up Arthur's Seat. We're gonna visit the Coffins, and we're gonna do a ghosty tour. For sure.
Absolutely. And you know what? I've all done that all before, and I would do it 100 times more, because every time I go for a tour, it depends on who's leading it. And there's just one little factoid or tidbit or something new that I've just not ever heard before, or you get like shivers up your spine over a new place or whatever. And it just is just like, I love it all. I love it. But this episode in particular is making me like Scotland sick. Like, I just miss it, and I want to go back there. I know. It's just such a fascinating, and it's just seeped in such history and layers and mystery between the folklore and the dark history and arts. I mean, there's just so much.
That's the thing. Even these little mini coffins
I know,
aren't as simple as like we've got this archaeological dig, and it's like these mini coffins. They're fairy coffins, and they're found on a fairy burial place, and then there's something to do with witchcraft. Like Scotland has to make everything have this magical element, which I'm super pleased about, because that's the bit that I latch onto.
Yeah, me too.
I have to tell you a funny story before we go.
Yeah.
So today I went with a friend of mine to a castle nearby called Kincardine Castle, and it's privately owned. It's not a National Trust castle, and they had an open garden day. Obviously with COVID, everything's kind of opening up again now, so they could open up outdoors for people to come and tour around their garden, which was super beautiful. This beautiful magical walled garden full of gorgeous plants. So I went with a friend of mine, and we had walked around the walled garden, and as we were coming out of the walled garden, there was obviously the wall of the walled garden. You're gonna laugh at me.
Oh no.
There was the wall of the walled garden, and I came through the path, and what I saw on my left, on the ground, in the forest, because it was woodland there. It's like this path leading back to the castle.
Yeah.
A baby lying in the grass.
What?
And it looked like it was on its own. And the first thing that popped into my head was, what's this fairy child doing here? And then of course I walked like 2 more feet, and as I walked 2 more feet, I passed where the wall was, and there was like a woman holding another child going, it's okay, this baby isn't abandoned. He's just like, and I was like, that's okay. I didn't think this was an abandoned baby. I thought it was a fairy baby.
I just thought it was a changeling for a second. Oh, I love that. I love it.
And then of course I got there. I think she thought, what the fuck is she on about? But that was my first thought. What's this changeling doing in the woods?
We must pass it through a fire so we can get our baby back. Oh wait, no.
It was just lying on its back, sort of gurgling, and its baby grow had like one of those super cute baby grows. It was like almost like a newborn.
Yeah. Oh my god, that's so funny. Honestly,
it did look quite magical though, because it was sunny, and it was like the flowers were all out, and it got hazy sunshine, and this super cute baby.
Oh my god,
in a castle garden,
kicking around in a castle garden all by its lonesome. Love everything about that story,
including my weird mind.
No, I would have been the same way, like, oh my goodness. Oh, it's so good. I can't wait. Sean and I and Matt, we definitely fantasize about our retirement all the time, and it's always like, I always make sure to be like, and in our Scottish cottage, and in our Scottish cottage, and in the Scottish cottage. Like, it's like my favorite. Like, I'm like,
you've got to say that so many times so that it really gets in there, and he's not got a chance.
Trust me, I do, because he knows, like, whatever our plans become, that is always going to be part of them. So
as long as you build a granny flat for me.
Oh, I know.
Do you know what a granny flat is?
Well, I can imagine what it is. Your little space.
Yeah, it's like
a granny. We're like the same age, so that's
I know,
awkward.
but I'm just calling it a granny flat.
Don't call it that. That puts yourself in like a bad place.
Well, yeah, but
I have him. I've planted the seed. I plant the seed like once a day, because I'm like, you need to know. And can I tell you how many people have like drawn my attention to that? You know, they have like, you can buy like a square foot of Scotland and like like laird or lord of a square foot. And I'm always like, I know. I like send this to my husband like every minute. But my problem is I need like 100 of them, because I don't want just one. I want like a full plot so I can like have my little like I showed you. Have you seen my picture?
That's what we need Patreon for, Karen.
Oh,
We need a
Lucy.
Patreon for Karen's
For
like
our-
Lady of
Well,
the Isles fund.
did I show you
And you could have a
my
link to like buy a square foot, but you could have them all next to each other.
You've seen my
So,
actual
and then
picture
you could
here?
build your dream house.
Have you seen my Scottish cottage
I have.
canvas?
It's so nice. I love those
Then
kind of cottages.
then
They're
I
like the
just-
traditional.
I know. If you're watching on YouTube, I actually am holding a gigantic canvas on my shoulder right now, which shows my Scottish cottage, which is actually an abandoned cottage.
I know, but it's so gorgeous.
But this is like all I need. And he's
I
like, yeah,
know.
but you need an art studio that's like ginormous. I'm like, yeah, I know I do, but whatever. We still need the Scottish cottage because I need
Scottish cottage is like a tongue twister.
I know, but you get used to it once you say it a million times a day, which I do, because I need to know that he knows that like we're doing this. So now our thing is like, are we going to rent one or are we going to buy one? He had a really good suggestion, which is to rent, like every summer, rent one in a new place to really like
to find where you would like to live.
Exactly.
That's a great idea.
He was like, rather than going right for the purchase, and also like, I want to like explore the Hybrides and I want to go to like Orkney and Shetland and like all over the Highlands. And like, obviously we're not welcome in Glencoe, which makes me super sad because it's like my most favorite place, but we can't go there.
There's plenty of places that you are welcome. It's okay.
I know. So I think that is going to be our plan. I think we're going to skip around every summer until we find like
the place that you want to
place that we want to actually purchase. And then even then, I don't know how long we're allowed to stay there without actually, I don't think we can emigrate. I don't think that they allow Americans.
No, but maybe you'd be allowed to live there a certain number.
But I bet you we could go there for a few months and then maybe rent it out while we're not there. But I'm like on like a daily, it's like on my daily, I mention it just so I know that root is firmly planted in his brain. So we can make it happen. But he's on board, but he's kind of on board. Like I've worn him down so much over the years that I think.
And Max can already speak with the accent, so you're sorted.
Right? Oh, trust me, I wear them down too. My kids know. How cute was Max and his little thing?
I know, that was brilliant.
So cute. You know who else's kids does a really good Scottish accent? Our friend Mandy's kids.
I thought you were gonna say Mandy.
They do a really good job too. Her son Christian, who's the same age as Max, they're in the same grade at the same school. He does a British baby where he's like, oh, I'm a British baby. And he's like a redhead. His hair is like fire red. And he does this hilarious.
He looks like a proper Scot, that boy.
Yes, he does. And he has this hilarious British accent when he's a British baby. It is so freaking funny. It's so random. But anyways, you guys are in our thoughts, whether you like it or not. Yeah. This episode was brilliant. You did such a good job. Fun. It was so fascinating.
Just like every week when it's my turn, I'm sure you're the same when it's your turn. I do all this research, which is super fun to do.
Yes.
I blurt it all out onto a page, which I print off. And then I spend like several days stressing about the fact that I'm going to forget or like not say the right thing.
Yeah.
And almost that pre-exam stress dream thing that you have when you're in school. And then we start speaking about it and it just all comes out anyway. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter if we've forgotten important facts.
And I wouldn't know anyways, even if you did.
That's the thing. We don't know. If we don't say them, we don't know.
No, I just thought it was really interesting and so weird.
I know.
Which makes it even more interesting. So you did a great job.
Well, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Oh my God. Every two. Yeah, I do know what I'm going to do for the next one, I think.
Please don't tell us. I want a surprise.
Okay, I won't. But are we having our guest on next?
We're having our guest on. So I will pin her down for a day and we will get her on. She's got some cool
stories.
Some cool sort of spooky ghosty stories from I think mostly the Borders region of Scotland.
Perfect. That's perfect. I'm super excited. I really like having guests on every so often. It makes it changes things up, and it's like I get sick of hearing myself. So it's nice to hear from someone else. So I think that's awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening and hanging out with us this week.
Thank you so much. That was super fun.
That was so fun, Lucy. You did such a good job. And we will see you next week with our special guest. And then after that, I will be doing a surprise episode. Woohoo! All right. We'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Bye.